Hi and welcome back to MS Projects 2013 tutorial. In video 6 we're going to be covering the following: linking summary tasks, changing predecessor tasks, adding predecessor column, recurring tasks, network diagram view, changing task dependencies, working with the timeline, critical tasks and critical path, task types, and task constraints. Great, now that we've linked the subtasks together, it's time to go and connect all these summary tasks together to complete the schedule. As you can see, the summary tasks are not contingent. In other words, they're not next to each other or below each other as the subtasks are. So we'll need to select them to join them together. To do this, I use the control key on my keyboard. I select the first summary task, hold my control key down, and I move to the next one and select it. As you can see, as I'm doing that, it's highlighting the summary tasks. Each summary task has turned grey, which is only a temporary thing until such time as we have gone and connected them together. By connecting the summary tasks together, this will complete our schedule, and you'll see now that the days of duration for the complete project will have changed. Before we did the linking of the tasks, our days duration was shown as the maximum as one of the tasks that it was highlighting. And as you can see at the moment, before I do the linkages, the duration is sitting on 66 days. When I link them together, it's now changed to 301 days, as you can see there. And also note that the start and finish dates that have been affected by this change have turned to blue. This is only temporary. They will be highlighted blue, showing us what parts of the schedule will be affected by the changes that we have made. The next thing that I want to show you is how the predecessor column has now been populated. I'm going to bring up the predecessor column by clicking on Add New Column, Insert Columns, and type in predecessor. Select it, and now you can see all the predecessors are now being shown within the predecessor column. So as you can see, task number 4 has got a predecessor of 1. Task number 3 has got a predecessor of 2. As the linkages have been done, so the predecessors have been set up. If we need to go in and change the predecessor, we do not have to actually break the linkage. We can go into this predecessor column and select the predecessor that we want to change by clicking on it. Example here I want to use is task number 7. It's got a predecessor of 6. So I'm going to delete that and type in 5 and enter. Right, let's now scroll to the Gantt bar and have a look what's happened there. As you can see, the new linkage has been added on the Gantt chart. In the last module, we spoke about tasks, how to set up the tasks, subtasks, link them together. Now I'm going to show you how to go in and set up a recurring task. Now, a recurring task basically is something that happens on a regular basis. Example, a Monday morning meeting, and that's what we're going to set up now. For the duration of the project, we'll need to have meetings to discuss how the project is doing, etc., with the rest of the team. So what we're going to do now is we're going to go and set up those meetings and make it a part of our actual project plan. To do this, I move to the Insert group, click on the Task button. As you can see, it brings up 4 different choices: Task, Recurring Task, Blank Row, Import Outlook Tasks. This is going to be a recurring task. So I click on Recurring Task. Then opens up the recurring task dialog box. In this dialog box, starting from the top, we've got an input box there where we can type in the task name. On the right hand side of it, the duration of the task, at this moment in time showing 1 day. Below that is the recurring pattern, and as you can see, it gives you choices: daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, recurring every how many weeks, starting on which day of the week, Sunday through to Saturday. Below that, we've got the range of occurrences. We can set the start date and to end after a certain number of occurrences or by a specific date. Then we've got the calendar, which we'll discuss shortly. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to go in and type in the task name. And the task name here is going to be weekly meeting. The duration is going to be 1 hour, 1H. It's going to be weekly, recurring every first week on a Monday morning. Then below is we're going to set the recurrence pattern, starting on whichever date. We might as well take it from the 31st. And then after, let's leave it as 60 occurrences. Once I've pushed the OK button, as you can see here now on the entry table, it's gone and added the meetings in for me, showing on task row number 1. Notice the reoccurrence symbol in the indicator column. And you'll notice on the Gantt chart itself, it's showing me the weekly meetings as well. I can hide these weekly meetings so that they don't take up my whole entry table by clicking on the collapse button on the summary task. And as you can see then, it's now showing me all my weekly meetings nice and neatly packed away. The next thing that we're going to be looking at is some of the different views that are available within MS Projects 2013. The first view that I'm going to discuss here is the network diagram view. As you can see on the view bar on the left hand side, you can select the different views, and I'm now going to select the network diagram view. Right, as you can see, the network diagram view has now come up. It's a pictorial view of your project plan. Each task is set in what we call a node. That's those little boxes that you can see there. And each node represents something different. So the network diagram view displays the project as a flowchart, as you can see, to help you visualize and analyze task details and the links between the boxes. The lines connect the nodes together, and those are known as the linkages. Summary tasks are represented by parallelograms, and subtasks are represented by rectangles. Each node displays task information such as the task name, task ID, duration, start and finish dates, and percentage complete. So as you can see now, looking at these ones in front of us here, these nodes, the first one that we've got there is e-learning residential construction, and that is our main summary task. Next, we have the weekly meeting, and as you can see, at the top left-hand corner of each of these nodes, there's either a positive or negative sign. That's once again for collapsing and hiding your different tasks. As you can see, when I click on it now, notice how it is hidden. As I click it, it brings it back. As you can see, by default, MS Projects displays each node at 100% zoom. To change this, we can move down to the bottom right-hand corner of our screen on the status bar, and we can use our zoom slider. As you can see, I'm doing now, and by clicking on it, it is actually zooming into the project and showing me more nodes. One of the other nodes that I wanted to mention, which I didn't mention just now, is the milestone. This is the one I'm pointing out now. Notice the different shape. Another method to change the zoom ratio, or the zoom to zoom in and out, go to the View tab and click on it, and under the Zoom section, we have our zoom over here, where we can zoom in or out, or custom zoom, where we can select zoom percentage. The network diagram view provides us an alternative way to view the links and dependencies between tasks. As we review through our task relationships, you may find that some tasks do not actually depend on each other as indicated in the schedule. You can reschedule tasks by modifying the task links. When we do this, project automatically recalculates the project schedule. We mentioned the different task relationships earlier on. I'm going to just mention them again. When we link together tasks, we set up dependencies. MS Projects uses 4 different dependencies, as you can see. The first one being a finish to start dependency. Task B cannot start until task A has been completed. A start to start dependency. Task B cannot start until task A has started. Finish to finish dependency. Task B cannot finish until task A has finished. Start to finish. Task B can't finish until task A has started. To modify this task dependency, we need to bring up the task dependency dialog box, and to do this we double click on the link between the tasks. I'm going to go and double click between the planning and apply for permits, move my cursor onto it, double click, and now it has opened up the task dependency dialog box. And there's only 2 main things to understand here. Number 1 is the type of dependency, and at this moment in time it's showing a finish to start dependency. If I click on the drop down list, as you can see there, it gives me the other dependencies that I can select from: start to start, finish to finish, or start to finish, or no dependency. On the right of that, where it says lag, that is where we can fill in the lag time. We'll discuss this further later. I'm going to change this dependency so that you can see the effect that it will have on our project. I'm changing it to a start to finish dependency. And then watch what happens with the link. Notice that the Planning Wizard dialog box has come up to show you that you have made a change on your task and what the effect will be. You can ignore it by clicking OK. Right, when I go back to Gantt chart view, notice the changes that I made. These 2 tasks have now changed. Finish to start dependency. What I'm going to show you next is how to scroll through the chart pane. The easiest way to navigate through the chart pane is to use the new timeline that has been set up with MS Projects 2013. If you want to see more of the chart pane, you can drag the edge of the timeline to the right so that more of the days are available for you to see. This compresses the Gantt bar, but they retain their normal relative size. So I'm going to show you first of all how to add or show the timeline. If you're anywhere else on the project or selected any other ribbon, such as the task ribbon, I need you to go to the view ribbon. Click on it. Now opens up your view ribbon, and on the right hand side under split view you'll see there's 2 checkboxes, timeline and details. If I select timeline, notice how it's brought the timeline up, and this is where I can use for scrolling. There are 2 bars, one on the left, which is the start date, and one on the right, which is the end date. By manipulating these, I can zoom in and out of my actual project plan. I'm going to show you how to do this now. As you can see, I move my cursor over. Notice when I get to the edge of the line there, it becomes a double arrow. I can now drag this to the left by holding my left mouse button down and dragging. Notice how it is changing the dates on the Gantt chart, and also showing you the different or more elevated view. Take note special at the top of your Gantt chart. Have a look at the top of your Gantt chart. You'll notice your time scale, and this will change as I move this up and down. Notice I'll move it to the left. Give me a wider area. I can bring this down, and notice how the dates are changing, or the view is changing. Another neat little trick that they've got here as well, if I'm on a certain task and I cannot see that task on the Gantt chart view, and I want to go to it without having to use my scroll bars at the bottom, very simple thing to do is I make sure I'm in my task ribbon. If not, go and click on it, and I move to the right hand side of the screen where it says editing, and I click on the scroll to task. Watch how it brings that task into view. Much quicker way of getting around. Right, the last thing I want to show you before we close off this video is what the critical task and critical paths are. Critical tasks are tasks that must be completed on schedule for a project to be finished on time. Critical tasks joined together form what we call the critical path. By monitoring the critical tasks and the critical path in your project and the resources assigned to them, you can determine which tasks are affecting your project finish date, and thereby devising some kind of a contingency plan if necessary to sort it out. In network diagram view, critical tasks are shown in red. I'm showing you this now. As you can see, ones in red are showing you the critical tasks, and the ones in blue are showing you the non-critical tasks. I'm going to switch over to network diagram view so you can see what that looks like. Notice all the red and blue tasks. There we can see which is our critical path and which tasks are going to be done first for it to be completed on time. Right, now that we have had a look at how to set up the tasks and set up the critical path and change the task relationships, let's have a look at some of the task options. So far I've shown you how to plan a project by creating its task list, linking tasks and defining task dependencies. To manage your project even more efficiently and effectively, you also need to set the task types and constraints. There are three different task types that we have. The first one being fixed duration. The fixed duration has a constant time value. Even if you increase the resources allocated to the task, the duration will stay the same. For example, let's say that a task has a fixed duration of 2 days and 2 resources are assigned to it. Even if another resource is added to the task, the project will not change the duration. An example of this is when we do the foundations. When we dig the foundations, we can add additional resources to the task to shorten the duration of the task. But once we've poured the cement for the foundation, no matter how many resources we add, we still need a certain amount of time for the cement to dry, and that would be a fixed duration. Next is a fixed work task. The total work to be performed has a constant value, and the total amount of work performed on a task is the total of all the resources used of the task. An example here is when we've got a wall to paint within a room. The room's got 4 walls. The painter can paint 1 wall per day, so the duration will take him 4 days to paint all 4 walls. If we want to shorten that duration, what we do is we add additional resources. Say we add additional 3 resources. That will bring our work down to 1 day, because 4 resources will be able to do it in a shorter duration. Then we have fixed unit. The fixed unit type has a constant quantity or units of measure. A fixed unit task has a constant quantity of resources. In other words, no matter how many resources we added, if it was not an effort-driven task, the units would stay the same. If I had one person painting the wall, and I'd given him 4 days, that would give me 32 hours. If I added an additional 8 hours to bring my total to 40 hours, this would then allow the painter 5 days to do the painting job, giving him 1 extra day. So here we've kept the resource unit the same, in other words 1 unit, and added additional time to make it longer. Right, let's have a look how to go in and change the task options. To do this, move my mouse cursor over to the task that I want to change the option on. I double click on it, brings up my task information dialog box. Make sure I'm on the Advanced tab. Over here, as you can see, there are two selections that we're going to use. Number one, the task type, and number two, effort driven. As you can see at this moment in time, is fixed duration, fixed units, and fixed work. If I select fixed duration, I need not put a check mark into the effort driven box. For fixed units, if I put a check mark into the effort driven box, what will happen now is that when I add additional resources to this task, it will shorten the duration. Next, I want to talk to you about the task constraints. As I mentioned right at the beginning of the tutorial, constraints are basically limitations that are imposed upon tasks. When planning a project, we need to be aware of the external factors such as deadlines, availability of resources. You can set the task constraints to control the start and finish dates of the task, as I'll show you in a minute. Task constraints affect a project schedule, duration, and its flexibility. Right, let's have a look at these task constraints. The first one, as soon as possible, or ASAP, means that this task needs to be done or completed as soon as we can. As late as possible means that we need to schedule a task to begin as late as possible. When we do this, MS Projects schedules a task with the constraint from the finish date of the project or task. Start no earlier than schedules a task to start on or after a specific date that we have set. Finish no earlier than, this schedules a task to start on or before a specific date. Start no later than means that we schedule a task to start no later than a specific date. Finish no later than, when we set this constraint, we schedule a task to finish on or before a specific date. A task with this constraint cannot finish after its specified date. Must start on, when we set this constraint, we schedule a task to start on a specific date. Must finish on, this is where we go in and set the constraint that we finish on a specific date. To set the constraint, move your mouse cursor over to the task that you want to set the constraint for. Double click on it. It opens up the Summary Task Information dialog box. Notice on the General tab, over here we've got the constraint type. If I click on the down arrow, it brings up the selection for us. As soon as possible, finish no later than, or start no earlier than. To the right of that, we've got the constraint date. If I click on that, it brings up the date widget, and we can select the date of the constraint. In video 6, we covered the following: linking summary tasks, changing predecessor tasks, adding predecessor column, recurring tasks, network diagram view, changing task dependencies, looking at the timeline view, critical tasks and critical path, task types, and task constraints. Right, we've come to the end of this video. Thanks for your time. Hope to see you in the next one. See you in a bit.